Please welcome e-business expert Lina Žemaitytė Kirkman.
Wow, lots of smartphone addicts today. Welcome and hello. There's been a lot of talk lately about how smartphones are such a big part of our life and really a negative part of our life. You know, you heard that. Making us dumber, we don't talk to each other, we don't stop to smell the roses. Basically, it's really bad for us. Smartphones are very bad for us. You possibly heard the advice like, don't Instagram your food, eat it, and, you know, don't look at your screen, talk to the person in front of you, you know, smell the roses, hug trees, and so on. If you're anything like me, your reaction to that is this. What up? Because smartphones are great, they're useful, they're practical, they're fun to use, and that's why we use it, right? We use it, and we use it a lot. I personally started asking myself how much do I use my smartphone on 2 occasions in my life. First was last year, I read an article that said, an average person checks their smartphone 150 times a day. That's quite a lot, right? 150 times works out to be approximately every 6 minutes. So if you're an average person, by the time I finish giving the speech, you're possibly going to check your phone 5 times. But I know you're not average and you're not normal, so you're possibly going to check 20 times or 30 times or whatever. So there's a challenge for you. Try checking and counting how many times you're going to check your phone while I talk, just for fun. I actually downloaded an app after reading that article. I downloaded the app that's called Break Free. There are other apps out there. For the iPhone users, there is Moment. For Android, you can get the Break Free or the Checky. Those apps basically count how many times you opened your screen, and they also count how long you used your phone for. So I downloaded the app and I forgot about it, but as possibly you know very well, apps don't like you forgetting about them. So they send you a notification, and sure enough, ding ding, I got notification saying, hey Lina, check your data. Now I have 2 kids, and not just any kids. I have a toddler and a baby, and anyone who has kids will tell you, they suck the attention out of you. I mean, I have no free time, so I don't have time to check my phone all the time. Okay, sure, I check like 5 minutes Facebook, 10 minutes email, but what is it going to be? An hour a day tops, right? And then kaboom comes in the data. This is the actual chart of my phone usage. Apparently, I check my phone 80 to 100 times a day. Okay, below average, fine with that. But time, like some days I use it up to 4 hours. The average works out 3 hours. To be precise, 2 hours, 58 minutes. 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's 21 hours. That's extra day a week, right? How many times have I heard myself saying, man, if only I had an extra day a week? That's there, right there. So I wasn't very happy about it. I was like, that's it. I'm going to use my smartphone less. Just not going to use it so much. Guess how that worked out for me? So first few days maybe, but then I slipped back into the same thing. But then I started noticing another thing. My 2-year-old started bringing my phone to me. So let's say I put it on the table and I walk to another room, so he grabs it and brings it to me. It's like a trained puppy, you know, fetching a stick. That's so cute. And very convenient, by the way. But I thought about it and it made me a bit sad, because I thought, in his world, the way he sees the world, the 2-year-old, his mom and her phone are never apart. And if they are apart, they need to be joined together to normalize the situation, because something's not normal, right? So I kind of thought, I really don't want my son to grow up in the world where he thinks that smartphone is part of my body, although we're heading that way. So this is what got me thinking, what is happening with our smartphones? Why I can't resist it? Why I'm using it 3 times a day and I'm telling myself I'm not going to, but still I am using it? And I realized that the reason I'm using it so much and the reason I could not use it less, it's not because I have no willpower. It's because the phones and the apps on them are designed that way. They're designed to be addictive. And I mean, I have masters in psychology and I worked in online business for majority of my life, so I know how those things work, and it still got me. And the reason it got me, because I wasn't mindful, I wasn't paying attention to what's happening to me when I'm taking my phone out. So this is what my talk about is today. I want to share my knowledge and my experience and the research I've done into this topic with you, so you understand what's driving your behavior when you're pulling your phone out of your pocket. So my talk is basically from 3 parts today. First, I'm going to talk about the smartphone addiction, what it is, and how do you know if you're addicted or whether you have a problem or not. Then I'm going to talk about the psychological tricks that I used when designing the app. And then I'm going to talk about some practical tips that maybe you can go and apply to your smart lives. Right, so let's start with the addiction. For the purpose of this talk, when I say addiction, I don't mean it in medical terms, where, you know, people lose their jobs, relationships, they get so consumed by the using of their smartphone that they can't function in other areas of their life. I'm going to use addiction as, you know, normal people, you and I, who use their phones, use it a lot, but it's not interfering with their lives. You know, the worst that can happen is, man, I really need to work on this project, but I just spent half an hour on Facebook. I wish I didn't do that. So that's sort of addiction, right? How does one know if you're addicted? Any addiction has 2 main components. First, if you try to use it less and you can't, like it happened to me, that may indicate there is a problem there. Another one is if people around you start complaining or teasing. So if your significant other or your mom, moms are always right, tell you, hey, you're always on your phone, maybe pay attention a little bit to see whether she's right, right? You can get questionnaires online, but for today's purpose, I'm going to share some research data with you about how does the average smartphone user behave and see whether any of these numbers apply to you. Right, so 79% of smartphone users say that they check their phone within 15 minutes of waking up. Oops. 68 sleep with the phones or have the phones right by them when they sleep. 72% say that they feel anxiety and uneasy feeling when they receive a message because they feel that they need to reply to it instantly, straight away. There's even a new word for it. It's called textiety, text anxiety. See what they did there? So basically just anxiety when you hear that beep beep or feel vibration because, man, I need to reply right now. 67% say they feel something that's called phantom vibrations. When you think that you felt your phone vibrate in your pocket, or even you heard it ring, who had that, right? But actually there was nothing. You're just like, oh, I really felt that vibrate. So yeah, majority of us do that. 42% say they could not live without their phones. And here's an interesting fact for you. The World Unplugged project asked students from countries across, 10 countries I think it was, across the world to go without their smartphones for 24 hours. After going for 24 hours, majority of students reported clear distress. They said that was the most awful 24 hours for me. And 1 in 3 after that said that they rather would give up sex than give up their smartphone again. Now I've shared 6 points with you. How many of those applied for you? For me, it was 4, not telling you which ones. So looks like lots of us are suffering from the modern age phobia, which is called nomophobia. Again, no mobile phone phobia, it's nomophobia. And we just don't want to live without our smartphones. If we leave our smartphone at home, it's very likely we're going to turn around and get it, right? Because we don't imagine our day without it. 10 years ago when the smartphone revolution started, not all of us had it. Now we can't even live without it. How did we get here, right? How did it happen that it's such a big part of our lives? Well, this is where the psychology behind the smartphone addiction comes in, right? So we're humans. We have lots of psychological biases and vulnerabilities, and app designers know that. And if you were a programmer, you could say that we have lots of psychological backdoors that a good hacker could hack through. So all apps, if you're a creator of the app, what's your purpose? You want people to spend time on it, right? For a person to spend time on the app, you need to get them on that app somehow. So there's lots of psychological tactics that are used to get you checking your apps, but I'm going to talk today about 3. It's intermittent rewards, fear of missing out, and leaky interactions. Let's start with intermittent rewards. I would like to tell you about this gentleman here. He is an American professor. It's B.F. Skinner. He was the behavior psychology professor, and he's famous for teaching pigeons to do lots of things. Among one of them is to fly a missile. Yeah, it's gonna make sense soon. So that was called Project Pigeon, and he was teaching a pigeon to fly a missile because during the World War II, before the radar was invented, pilots who were flying the plane to hit the target usually would get too close and get shot down themselves. So he said, I know, we're going to save pilots' lives, and we're going to put a pigeon to steer that missile. The way he taught the pigeon to do that, so within the missile on the screen, the target appears like a dot, right? It's a beeping dot. So he taught the pigeon to peck at the dot. If the pigeon's pecking straight, the missile's flying straight. If the pigeon starts pecking on the right, that means the target's on the right, the missile's flying right. That's a pretty cool idea. Unfortunately, a pigeon never got to fly a missile because it was proven that electronics is a reliable source of steering missiles. So, but what he learned from that experiment, very interesting thing about how we learn things. So he learned if you want a behavior to be almost addictive like, because he taught those pigeons to peck 10,000 times in 45 minutes, right? So they really were going like AK-47s. All you need to do, you need to link a behavior, in pigeon's case pecking, and the reward. But not only any reward, the reward that's totally random and unpredictable. So does this work for humans? Yeah, you bet. The whole gambling business is based on that, and lottery tickets, and this is what makes slot machines so profitable, because you link action, like pulling a lever, with a reward, a match, a prize, you know. You know it's gonna come, but you don't know when, and that's what makes it so fun and so addictive, and you know, the slot machine players just keep playing until they get something. So when you pull your phone out of your pocket, you're really playing a slot machine to see what notifications are you gonna get. When you swipe down on your Facebook to refresh the feed, it's a slot machine to see, hey, is something fun gonna come here? When you swipe faces on Tinder, it's a slot machine to see whether you've got a match or not. So this game, this slot machine, is what makes us to check so unconsciously. What I was checking my phone 100 times a day, or 80 times a day, was I making 100 conscious choices? I know what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna check my phone. No, it was totally unconscious, just pulling it out and playing that slot machine. Basically, I just conditioned myself like those pigeons. So, sometimes we act like a pigeon, and being aware of that could help with playing slot machine a bit less. The other thing is fear of missing out. Well, the fear of missing out is the Asian part of our brain. When we lived in tribes or small communities, it was very important to be in the know, and it was very important to be socially accepted, because otherwise you're going to be left in the woods to die alone, right? So you want to be part of the community and know whether there's something new, like new threat or new food source comes. It was so important for us that we actually have a specific part of our brain, it's called the amygdala, in the center of our brain, that does just that. It scans the environment to see whether we're being left out. So this is where your uncomfortable feeling comes when you see that your friends had a party, but they didn't invite you. That's your amygdala crying, man, you're gonna die in the woods. Why didn't they invite you? So this is how the social networks work. It's actually quite funny, because today in the morning I checked my emails and I received 2 emails from LinkedIn. One was saying, Lina, people are looking at your profile, and the other was saying, 4 of your connections has new skills and 3 of them have new jobs. Before I would have thought this is to inform me, but now I know. LinkedIn's targeting my amygdala, so I feel like, man, I'm missing out, there's something happening in my group, I don't know what, I better log in and check, right, to get me on the app. Facebook does the same. Try not going on Facebook for a couple of days. You'll soon get notifications that, hey man, your friends are doing lots of stuff that you don't know about. You get on and better check, right, or you die in the woods. Also, Facebook knows when you change your profile picture that you are very vulnerable for that social exception, and you really care what people in your group think of you, because you don't want to die in the woods. So what Facebook does, it keeps your profile picture up in the ranks for a longer time, so more people see it, more people comment it, because they know if someone's going to comment on your picture, you're going to go back and check because you care about what people think about you. And the third one is called leak interactions. Now, has this happened to you ever? You're in bed at night, you take your phone because you want to set the alarm for tomorrow, right? Early start. An hour later, God knows what you've been doing, but the alarm is not set. True story. So this is what happens because we leak from one action to another. We might see a notification, check something on Instagram that it somehow leaks into Facebook, then you start reading something, and okay, I forgot to set my alarm. To illustrate how leak interactions work, I would like to tell you about the experiment that Professor Brian Weinstein did. It was nothing to do with phones, it was an experiment about food and to prove that we eat with our eyes. So what he did, he sat 4 people at the table to eat soup. What they didn't know that 2 people had tubes connected to the bottoms of their bowls that were slowly refilling the soup as they were eating it. Right? So no surprise there. The ones that they had the soup being refilled ate 73% more. What's interesting that they didn't report feeling any fuller. They didn't want like, oh my God, I just binged, I ate so much. They didn't feel that at all. So tech companies really apply the same to the apps. How do you make people spend more time on your app? Well, you make it a bottomless bowl. You automatically refresh the news feed. You automatically replay, well, Netflix, YouTube, or Facebook automatically replays your videos. So you do not have a moment to stop and say, do I want to watch another one or not? Oh no, another one is already watching, I better watch this, right? It's a cute kitten on this. So you can be aware of that and see how news feed is automatically refreshing to keep you consuming more and more. It's your bottomless bowl of your soup. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Do we go to the old dial phone and throw our smartphone away? Of course not. We cannot do that, but we can get some practical tips that we can apply on our phones because now we know that the app developers want us to get on the apps and wants us to spend more time on the apps. We can reorganize our apps in the way that could help us. So I'm going to share 3 tips that Tristan Harris, he's the chap that used to work at Google and then left Google and created an initiative that's called Time Well Spent. So this is where he's talking about the time that we spend on the apps should be over quality time. And his tips are these 3. The first one is switch off your notifications. It's such a simple one, really low-hanging fruit. But we live in an attention economy. That means everyone wants your attention. The app designers want your attention. There are literally teams and people that are called growth hackers that do exactly that. They invent new ways to get you on the app. Right? And those new ways are usually new forms of notifications. So if you wake up to a screen like this, you would notice that most of those notifications are from businesses. They're not from people. So if you've got to do one thing today after leaving this, do this. Switch off your notifications. That's really, really important, and because of one reason. It's going to increase your productivity. Because the research shows that if we work and concentrate on something, and we get interrupted by, let's say, a notification or whatever that is, it takes us up to 23 minutes to go back into the same level of focus. But what's worse, if we get interrupted all the time, our inner clock learns that, and then we become self-interrupting. We don't know how to work anymore for a long time, and we start looking for interruptions elsewhere. So do switch off your notifications. It's going to increase your productivity. Also, if you have phantom vibrations, it's going to help with that as well. And maybe a little bit with textiety as well. So the second tip is organize your home screen so it's only essentials there. How do you do that? You do that by looking at your apps and asking 3 simple questions. Which apps are my tools? The ones that, you know, like calendar, torch, calculator, something that helps you to do the job, and it has the very clear finish. There's no leaky interaction in it. Then ask, what apps are my healthy and realistic aspirations? So if I want to walk 10,000 steps a day, my healthy aspiration app would be a pedometer, right? To something that counts my steps. And then all the other apps, your bottomless bowls, your slot machines, your, you know, whatever gets you hooked, they need to go off the main screen. Because if we check our phones 150 times a day, and you lot, you check it way more than that, every time you open your phone, if you see red badges flashing at you with notifications missed, you think it's not affecting you, but actually your part of the brain that is responsible for stress is activated. So it sets really not a calm environment, and we want it to be calm, right? If we open it 150 times a day, we want it to be calm. So everything else needs to go off your home screen, and your apps need to go in the folders. But not only they need to go in the folders, you need to hide the candy wraps. And what I'm gonna mean by that is that the Tristan Harris gives this example, and he tells the story about the Google offices. So among all the perks that Google gives to the employees, one is that in the kitchens they have lots of candy, and M&M's is one of them, right? But they ran into the problem because people said, we eat too much sweets, right? This is not healthy. So then behavior scientists came in and they thought, what can we do to reduce this obsession with those M&M's? And what they did, they took M&M's from the clear glass container and put it into the white porcelain jars with a lid so you can't see them, and wrote with a very boring, Times New Roman label on top of it, peanut M&M's. So two things happen here. The lid is something that, taking off the lid is just enough effort to stop an us. Do I really want to be eating this? And that boring font is taking away all the millions of money that's been spent on marketing and packaging and branding, right? Success was tremendous. They reduced the calorie consumption by billions, trillions, and whatever. And this can be applied to our apps. So all the icons that are colorful icons of our apps, they're really just the candy wrap. We see the colorful thing and we want to consume it, right? Especially if it's flashing with notification, we just, without even thinking, going and grabbing it. So don't put it only, just put it on the folders. Put it on the folders and on the second page so you can't see the icons. How do I find my apps, I hear you ask? Well, you could use search. Your phone has a search box, and you could use that to find your app. If you have lots of apps, it's actually going to be quicker than swiping and trying to find. And the another benefit of it is that you can move your finger unconsciously, like the pigeon pecking at the screen, but you cannot type unconsciously. So when you start typing, that's just enough effort so you can stop yourself and ask, do I really want to be going on this app, or I'm just bored, or I'm trying not to do what I have to do, or what's going on with me, right? So search is pretty good. So to sum up, everyone wants your attention. There's tricks that the app users use to get you on the phone, and because those tricks are based on our psychological biases, they work, and we swallow them, and we go on our phones. Knowing this is not going to make your phone irresistible, but I really do hope that at least it might help you to be in control of your phone, at least most of the time. Right. Thank you very much, and question time. Thank you. Right. Okay. I said it all. There's nothing to ask. Okay. Thank you very much. You've been great. Thanks.